Hey guys, this is Al again. I'm back at the house. It's been a couple of weeks since I gave you an update. I'm just getting back on the XJ12 fuel injectors. I had to order some pintle caps and some what else did I have to get? Oh, some hose clamps, fuel injection hose clamps for the car before I could continue. One of the pintle caps, as I mentioned earlier on in the last video, was broken. But the pintle caps arrived. I've replaced one of them. Let me show you it. So these are the original injectors with the original pintle caps. You can see this one's not too badly damaged. These are the aftermarket ones. I've only done one. It was a bear to put on, but the way that I had to put them on is to basically stick a socket on the underside of it, so to protect the nozzle, and then put a socket on the top side as well, so you protect the pintle, and then just tap it in with a hammer. And it's on real tight right now, so I'm going to test just the one and make sure it works okay before I go off and take the rest off, because I don't want to you know, if it's the wrong pintle cap. I kind of guessed it would be the right one, but if it's the wrong one, I don't want to swap them all out and have problems. So we're going to test it first, and then we're going to see how that works out, and then we'll move forward. Alright guys, so it's a little bit tight over here. I've got my my cars in the garage, and obviously because the XJ12 is parked in the driveway, I can't pull it out to make more room for myself. But this is my injector cleaning rig. I bought this maybe about 10 years ago. I actually bought it for a Jaguar XJ12 coupe project that I had, and the car that I had been converted to propane, and everything was removed. All the fuel injection, the fuel tanks, the wiring harness, pretty much everything was taken out of the car, with the exception of the fuel injectors that stayed in the car, because obviously they don't want to create vacuum leaks by leaving those holes exposed. But everything else was removed, so I ended up buying two pre-HE Series 2 Jags. Actually, it was one Series 2 and one Series 3, very early model, 79 or something like that. And we were able to buy two new fuel tanks and make everything from those three cars, and put that car converted back to, you know, regular fuel injection. The only problem is that we didn't know, you know, whether we had good fuel injectors, and doing the fuel injection, you know, cleaning and testing was around $25 an injector, and I had 36 injectors that I needed to work with. So I ended up buying this deal because it worked out, you know, about the same amount as it would do to do like those injectors. I actually was money ahead, and I've used it a couple of times since. The ultrasonic cleaner unfortunately broke after a few years, but so I have another one. It's a smaller one that I got from Harbor Freight. It's not heated, but I just, you know, boil a kettle and use, you know, hot water. But the main rig, the testing rig, works, and obviously this ultrasonic cleaner works just fine as well. You've seen it before in other videos where I clean the fuel pods on the XJS. But you can actually fit 6 injectors in, but they've got that big donut and I don't want to take them off, so I'm just going to put 4 at a time and just clean them. So it's a real nice setup. You just turn it on, and you know, once it turns on, you've got a menu system here, and the first one, if we can get it to zoom, is ultrasonic cleaning. So it'll ultrasonic clean for 10 minutes. So basically all you got to do is just hit the ultrasonic cleaner, and then press go on the injecting machine, and what that does is it pulses the injectors while at the same time the ultrasonic cleaner is doing the cleaning. So just hit that. Alright, so you can see the water is a lot dirtier than it was before, but it's fine. The injectors should be cleaned, so they should be a lot better now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect them, I'm going to put them on the main rig, and then I'm going to install the last two injectors and run those. What I've also done is I filled up all the test tubes with kerosene. And you can notice that this one has got is a little bit lower than the rest. That's because this particular test tube just leaks. So this is something I had to learn because the last time, I was a little bit worried because I would notice that this injector would never run as well as the others, and it turned out not to be the injector. It was actually it just had a slow leak. But anyway, what I do is in order to fill the fuel injection machine with the right amount of kerosene so that the pump doesn't run dry, is I just basically fill up all the test tubes, and then I know that I've got enough kerosene. And just basically flip the switch, everything drains into the tank. You've got a little bug in there which I have to get out at some point. I'll do it later. But now everything is drained into the tank. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to mount those injectors that I just cleaned onto the injection cleaning rig, and then clean the rest, and then after that I'll be able to set everything up and start doing some testing. Alright guys, so everything's set up. You can see the water is really dirty right now, so I'm going to change this water when I get around to doing the second set of injectors. But all 6 injectors are plugged in. System is pretty nice. It's pretty easy to work with. It's really designed for this style of injector, which is the more modern style of injector. They have an O-ring at the top and an O-ring at the bottom. Because the injectors that we're using don't really have an O-ring, they use a hose with a kind of a barb fitting that you put on. I had to basically cut some small hoses down to size just to make it work, and then just the idea is just clamp down tight on it. And it's not ideal. I mean, it works much better with the newer style injectors, but it'll do the job. So all you got to do is change setting. So idling test number two, set for 10 minutes, and it should. Alright guys, so I'm shooting this from a distance, hoping that the noise isn't as bad, but you can see that all injectors are relatively well balanced, but you notice the one on the far left, that it's just not making as much foam. That would indicate to me that the fluid is running through, but the pulsing isn't as strong as the rest of the injectors, right? The reason I think that that's happening is because the pintle cap on that injector is the one that I replaced, and maybe the nozzle on that pintle cap is smaller than the nozzles on the other pintle caps. I don't know whether that's going to be a problem, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off that pintle cap and I'm going to put another new one on, but I'm going to bore it out a little bit so that it doesn't cause an obstruction, because I'm worried it may cause a problem in the way that the car runs. Hey guys, I'm back. It's Wednesday now. So I finished cleaning the injectors. I also took them out and cleaned them. I set this little box up so that I can paint the bottom of the injectors. The ultrasonic cleaner will strip the paint clean off, and I had an issue with my 1975 Jaguar XJ12C when I cleaned the injectors. It stripped the paint off, and when it stripped the paint off, the injectors would ground against the body of the car. And the way that car works, at least, is that it would pulse ground. So you'd have a permanent live wire that go into the injectors, and then the ground would get pulsed, and that's how the injectors would fire. Because the injector bodies were grounding, the injectors were continuously running, and it was causing the engine to flood out. So at that time I painted the injectors because I thought it would be a good idea to just basically protect them from grounding. and it did the job. And so now what I'm doing is, anytime I do injectors, I always make sure that I paint them. So, put this little box up, set it up so that I can shoot the bottom of the injectors and give them a coat of paint. So this one injector wasn't performing as well as the others, so I ran it again through the ultrasonic cleaner, and I'm also replacing the filter on it. Should be really replacing the filters on all of them, but I'm just going to do it on this one for now and see how it behaves, see if it behaves any better. But anyway, you can buy these types of kits. They're fuel injection rebuild kits. They have pinhole caps. They won't work on these particular injectors, but they'll work on the modern injectors. They'll have the spacers and the O-rings as well. And then they have this little tool. The way the tool works is that you basically screw this into the filter, and then you back the filter out by screwing on this side, which basically feeds the screw backwards and pulls the filter out. And then you can just go in and tap in some new filters. So I'm just going to do that right now. I obviously can't do it with one hand holding the camera, so I'm going to put the camera down and just basically do it and show you after it's done. Alright guys, so that's the old filter out. We've got a new filter in right now, so just going to put it back on the rig and see how it behaves. Hopefully it'll balance out with the rest of them, and I don't have to be worried about it. So this is my pandemic buddy. She's a backyard cat that had 2 litters under my deck, and she's decided to hang around. I had a spade, and there's also a black one that hangs around the house. They don't really like to be touched or anything else like that. They're contact free, but they're entertaining nonetheless. I don't even have a name for her, but she's a pretty sweet girl. Alright, so all the injectors are on, and I've tried to angle them in the same positions that they were in beforehand. I've tightened the hose clamps on the lower sections to make sure that they were good and tight, but I've left the upper section hose clamps loose so that in case I need to twist the injectors around I can, and then tighten it up later. So we'll move on to the car right now and get the injectors laid out. Before we get started, I also had the fuel lines rebuilt. We took those hoses to a hydraulic shop, and they cut the ends off and crimped on new fittings. So they use Gates barricade hoses, which should be pretty decent hoses. They're made for fuel injection, and this is something that might be of interest to people. So these are the fuel injector seals that go at the bottom of the fuel injector. When I looked them up for a Jaguar, I couldn't find the seals. They didn't list them anywhere, but I was able to cross-reference them against seals that are used on a BMW 633 CSI early 80s car, and that's the part number if you need it, 1364158 and they should work for the Jaguar as well. So we'll be installing these and taking the old mangled seals out. It's 27 degrees outside, and it's Christmas Eve today, so it's beautiful weather. You can't really go wrong. But run into a little bit of a snag with the Jag. The fuel injectors are held down by a retaining nut, and there's a threaded bolt that goes into the engine. It's 2 different thread pitches. The bottom part is 1 thread pitch and the top part is another. Unfortunately, I dropped one of those bolts somewhere in the V of the engine, and I've been looking for it, but can't find it. I thought the thread pitch was a 1/4 inch by 20, but when I took it to the hardware store, it didn't work. It wasn't the right thread pitch, so that kind of screwed me up. Now I've got to go find a car with one of those engines so that I can pull one of those injector bolts. I was over at 3 different junkyards today, but every one of them had the engine pulled out of an XJS, so I'm kind of stuck right now until at least the 27th, which is Monday, or probably the 28th, because people are going to take Monday off. There is a couple of suppliers over here in the DFW region that have specialize in either British cars or Jaguars, so I don't think I'm going to have a problem finding it. I'll probably just have to maybe buy something else as well, because nobody's going to want to go out there and fish out a bolt. But that's it, that's where I am. Let me show you what I've done so far. The fuel rail's pretty much all in place. Top lines still haven't been bolted on. I'm not going to bolt them on until they haven't been tightened. They've been the hose clamps are on there, but they haven't been tightened. I'll tighten them last. I just want to make sure that I'm able to manipulate everything before I tighten everything down. Really, the only injector that needs to be clamped down is this one. You can see it's the clamps are missing, the bolts. But apart from that, everything else is back together. I'll just do the hoses and reconnect the vacuum lines. That one's pretty easy to get to, so everything else should be pretty straightforward. But unfortunately, we can't start the car until that injector is bolted down. So there we have it. Beautiful day outside. Yeah, it's just spectacular outside today. So very, very happy. Nice day for Christmas Eve. I think Christmas Day is going to be just as nice as well. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Merry Christmas. I will upload the video this evening so that it'll be ready for tomorrow. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.